Hello guys, in this lecture we are going to see the energy policy in India, which is continuing the last lecture. In the last lecture we seen under the topic of energy policy in India as energy resources such as biofuels, oil and gas, coal, nuclear power and hydroelectricity. With the continuation of this, today we are going to see wind power. India has the fourth largest installed wind power capacity in the world. As of 31st December 2017, the installed capacity of wind power was 32,848 megawatt, as increase of 4,148 megawatt over the previous year. Wind power accounts nearly 10% of India's total installed power generation capacity and generated 52.66 billion kilowatt hour in fiscal year 2017-18, which is nearly 3% of total electricity generation. The capacity utilization factor is nearly 16% in the fiscal year 2017-18. The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is mentioned as MNRE of India, has announced a revised estimation of potential wind power resources from 49,130 megawatt assessed at 50 million hub 50 meter hub heights to 102,788 megawatt assessed at 80 meter hub height at 15% capacity factor. And this figure also shows the progress in India's installed wind power generating capacity from 2006. As per this graph, you can see from the year 2006 to 2013, it is going to increase as the installed capacity. Next is solar energy. India's solar energy installation is about 5,000 kilowatt hour per year, far more than its current total primary energy consumption. India's long-term solar potential could be unparalleled in the world because it has the ideal combination of both high solar insolation and a big potential consumer base density. Also, a major factor influencing a region energy intensity is the cost of energy consumption for temperature control. Since cooling load requirements are roughly in phase with the sun's intensity, cooling from the intense solar radiation could make perfect energy economic sense in the subcontinent located mostly in the tropics. Installation of solar power PV plants require nearly 2.0 hectares or 5 acres land per megawatt capacity, which is similar to coal-fired power plant when life cycle coal mining, uh, consumptive water storage and ash disposal areas are also accounted, and hydropower plants when submerged area of water reservoir is also accounted as the same. 1.6 million megawatt capacity solar plants can be installed in the India on its 1% land, that is 32,000 square kilometers. There are vast tracts of land suitable for solar power plant in all parts of the India exceeding the 8% of its total area, which are unproductive barren and divide divide of vegetation. Part of wastelands, that is about 32,000 square kilometer, when installed with the solar power plants that can produce 2,400 billion kilowatt hour of electricity, with the land productivity per yield of 0.9 million rupees per acre. That is, you can say 3 rupees per kilowatt hour price, which is at per with many industrial areas and many times more than the best productive irrigated agriculture lands. Moreover, these solar power units are not dependent on supply of any raw material and are self productive. There is unlimited scope of solar electricity to replace all fossil fuel energy requirements that are nothing but natural gas, coal, lignite, and crude oil. If all the marginally productive lands are occupied by the solar power plants in future, the solar power potential of India can meet the perennially to cater per capita energy consumption at par with USA or Japan for the peak population in its demographic transition. This figure shows global horizontal irradiation in India. Actually, solar energy, which is nothing but based on the PV cells, and PV cells productivity is depends on the irradiation of this radiation of the suns. So this graph shows the radiations over the India's land area, which is showing with the very dark colors showing with high radiations and yellow shade showing a little bit less radiations. You can see here kilowatt hour per meter square. In this, it is showing daily totals and it is showing the yearly totals. Next is solar thermal power. This figure shows a typical tower type CPS plant. The installed capacity of commercial solar thermal power plants in India is 227.5 megawatt, with 50 megawatt in Andhra Pradesh and 177.5 megawatt in Rajasthan. Solar thermal plants are emerging as cheaper, that is €6 per kilowatt hour, and clean load following power plant compared to the fossil fuel power plants. They can cater the load or demand perfectly and work as base load power plants when the extracted solar energy is found excess in a day. Proper mix of solar thermal and solar PV can fully match the load fluctuation without the need of costly battery storage. If you're thinking about the synergy with the irrigation, water pumping, and hydro power station, according to this, the price history of the silicon PV cells since 1977, the great thing about the solar power is that it is technology and not a fuel. It is unlimited, and the more it is deployment, the cheap it would be, while the more limited fossil fuels are used and the more expensive they become. The major advantage of the solar power or PV type only, it is that it cannot produce the electricity during the night time, and the cloudy days also it cannot produce the electricity. In India, this advantage can be overcome by installing the pump storage hydroelectricity station. Uh, Ultimate electricity requirement for for river water pumping. It is 570 billion kilowatt hour to pump 1 cubic meter of water for each square meter area by 125-meter height on average for irrigating 140 million hectares of net sown area for 3 crops in a year. This is achieved by utilizing all the usable river waters by interlinking Indian rivers by envisaging coastal reservoirs. These river water pumping stations would also be envisaged with pumped storage hydroelectricity features to generate the electricity when necessary to stabilize the grid. Also, all existing and future hydro power stations can be expanded with additional pump storage hydroelectricity units to cater nighttime electricity consumption. Most of the groundwater pumping power can be met directly by solar power during the daytime. To achieve food security, India needs to achieve water security, which is possible only by energy security for harnessing its water resources. If you are thinking about the electric vehicles, the retail price of the petrol and diesel are very high in India to make the electricity driven vehicles more economical, as more electricity is generated from the solar energy in near future without appreciable environmental effects. During the year 2018, many IPPs offered to sell solar power below 3 rupees per kilowatt hour to feed into the high voltage grid. This price is far below the affordable retail electricity traffic tariff for the solar power to replace the petrol and diesel use in transport sector. The retail price of diesel is was 53 rupees per liter in 2012 and 13. Nowadays, it is of nearly 88 rupees per liter. The affordable electricity retail price, which is of 860 kilocalorie per kilowatt hour at 75% input electricity to shaft power efficiency. To replace diesel, it is it is cost of it is having a cost of 9.97 rupees per kilowatt hour. The retail price of the petrol is 75 rupees per liter. In the same year 2012-13, the affordable electricity retail price to replace the petrol, it is having a cost of 19.06 rupees per kilowatt hour. In 2012-13, India consumed 15.744 million tons petrol and 69.179 million tons diesel, which are mainly produced from imported crude oil at huge foreign exchange outgo. The electric vehicle to grid, that is indicating with the V2G, is also feasible with the electricity driven vehicle to contribute for catering to the peak load in the electricity grid. The electricity driven vehicles would become popular in future when its energy storage or battery technology become more compact, lesser density, longer lasting, and maintenance free. Hydrogen, next is hydrogen energy. Hydrogen energy program started in India after joining the IPHE, that is International Partnership for Hydrogen Economy, in the year of 2003. There are 19 other countries, including Australia, United States, UK, Japan, etc. This global partnership helps India to set up commercial use of commercial use of hydrogen gas as an energy source. Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, that is MNRE, is the focal government agency associated with the hydrogen energy development in India. Hydrogen is a carbon natural fuel. Solar electricity prices in India have already fallen below the affordable price, that is nearly about 5 rupees per kilowatt hour to generate the 0.041 uh, LB per kilowatt hour. Hydrogen, which is equivalent to 0.071 liters of petrol in terms of lower heating value. To make the hydrogen economical fuel by sourcing from the electrolysis of water to replace the petrol or gasoline as a transport fuel. Vehicles with the fuel cell technology based on the hydrogen gas are nearly twice more efficient compared to the diesel or petrol fuels engines. Hydrogen can be generated cheaply by splitting the methane using electricity without emitting any greenhouse gas, and also extracted from wood gas produced from the carbon natural biomass. A luxury FCEV can generate 1 liter of the bottled quantity drinking water for every 10-kilometer ride, which is a significant by the product. Also, FCEV, it is one type of electric vehicle. FCEV does not emit any particulate matter, but removes the particle matter up to PM 2.5 from the ambient air. Any medium or heavy duty vehicle can be retrofitted into fuel cell vehicle as its system power density and specific system specific power are comparable with that of internal combustion engine. The cost and durability of fuel cell engines with economies of scale production line are comparable with the petrol or diesel engines. The excess power generation capacity available in India is nearly 500 billion units per year presently, and another 75,000 megawatt conventional power generation capacity is in pipeline, excluding the targeted 1,75,000 megawatt renewable power by 2022. The hydrogen fuel generated by 500 billion units of electricity can replace all diesel and petrol consumed by heavy and medium duty vehicles in India, completely obviating the need of crude oil importing for internal consumption. The net import of LPG is 6.093 million tons, and the domestic consumption is 13.568 million tons, with the rupees of 41,546 crores subsidy to the domestic consumption in 2012-13. The LPG import content is nearly 40% of the total consumption in India. The affordable electricity retail price to replace LPG in domestic cooking is 6.47 rupees per kilowatt hour, when the retail price of LPG cylinder is rupees 1000 with subsidy with 14.2 kg LPG content. Replacing the LPG consumption with electricity reduces its imports substantially. The domestic consumption of kerosene is 7.349 million tons, with the rupees of 30,151 crore subsidy to the domestic consumption in the year of 2012-13. The subsidies retail price of kerosene is 13.69 rupees per liter, whereas the export or import price is 48 rupees per liter. During the year 2013-14, the plant load factor, that is PLF, plant load factor of coal-fired thermal power station is only 65.43%, whereas these stations can run above 85% plant load factor comfortably, provided there is adequate electricity demand in the country. The additional electricity generation at 85% plant load factor is nearly 240 billion units, which is adequate to replace all the LPG and kerosene consumption in domestic sector. In December 2018, IPPs are offering to sell solar power below 2.90 rupees per kilowatt hour to feed into the high voltage grid. This price is below the affordable electricity tariff for the solar power to replace LPG and kerosene used at subsidized price of LPG or kerosene in domestic sector. If you're thinking about the energy trading and neighboring countries, then I would like to comment that the per capita electricity consumption is low compared to the many countries despite the cheaper electricity tariff in India. Despite low electricity per capita consumption in India, the country is going to achieve surplus electricity generation during the 12th plan, that is of 2012 to 2017 in this period, provided its coal production and transport infrastructure is developed adequately. India has been exporting electricity to Bangladesh and Nepal and importing excess electricity in Bhutan. Surplus electricity can be exported to the neighboring countries in return for natural gas supplies from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Pakistan are producing substantial natural gas and using for the electricity generation purpose. Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Pakistan produce 55 million cubic meter per day and 9 million cubic per day, 9, 9 million meter per day, and 118 million cubic meter per day, out of which 20 million cubic meter per day are consumed for the electricity generation respectively, whereas the natural gas production in India is not even adequate to meet its non-electricity requirements. This is about the energy policy in India, which is going on currently as I explained here. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.